The Shawshank Redemption is celebrating its 30th anniversary this month, and so I gave it a rewatch because to a lot of people, it's considered one of, if not the best film of all time. Though I will say it was my second time ever seeing this movie because the first time I watched it was, I guess you could say, 10 years ago. It was always one of those movies I heard about but never really gave much thought into it until I've gotten older and more wiser with my movie interest. And is this film worthy of all the high praise that it gets? Well, let's find out. Let's review. The Shawshank Redemption is based on a story by Stephen King. Follow Andy Dufresne as he is wrongfully accused of a crime he did not commit. He is sent to the Shawshank prison where he befriends Red, who is a smuggler within the prison. He can get everybody, any and everything in here. But above all, this movie follows Andy Dufresne as he spends his time in prison. And does he escape? Does he not escape? But of course, if you've seen this movie like 11 times, you already know the answer to that. Now, like I said in the beginning, this movie is beloved by many people. It didn't do too good at the box office, but word of mouth helped this movie a whole lot to the point where more people started to see it, whether it's on TV or VHS, you name it. This movie gained a huge following over the years. It is one of, if not the movie that changed Morgan Freeman's career into what it is today. Now, I don't know what I can add to the conversation around this movie that hasn't already been said. This movie has been sung to high praise multiple times. It is what I consider part of the big three of 1994, which is Forrest Gump, Pulp Fiction, which I will review next month, and The Shawshank Redemption. And while the Academy Awards say that Forrest Gump is the best out of them three, and there are some weird folks like me that consider Pulp Fiction the best out of this three, but again, I'm going to get into that movie at another time, so let's move on. But to a lot of people, they consider The Shawshank Redemption the best out of the big three of 1994. But all I can offer is my own perspective of my experience with The Shawshank Redemption. And despite the fact that even after watching this movie twice in my life, I still consider The Shawshank Redemption my least favorite out of the big three, but I do appreciate and love this movie more and more upon rewatches. I can see why this movie used to play all the time on TV. I see why people love this movie so much after watching it multiple times, because it is one of those movies that benefits after watching it over and over again. And I'm not saying in the way of you'll catch something new, but I'm saying, well, if you know the outcome of the movie, you just enjoy the ride getting there after watching it. Andy Dufresne, played by Tim Robbins, is definitely the heart of this movie because, like I said, he got framed for a crime he did not commit, and he is a banker, and so he's just put in a situation that he is just not equipped to deal with, and so him being smarter than all the other inmates within the prison, he has it a little rough. He gets beaten, he gets sexually assaulted, but he eventually overcomes all that and in fact, the best way I can describe Andy Dufresne is improvise, adapt, and overcome. And he definitely did those last two steps, which is adapt and overcome. He's just trying everything he can to hold out hope. And I just like how, of all the prison movies I've seen, this one is a little bit more special because essentially this movie is also a commentary on how even though you're out of prison, mentally you're still in prison. Because once they release you, you don't know how to adapt to the world. And that is seen through James Whitmore's character, Brooks, who is the more elder inmate. And once he gets out, he just doesn't know how to adapt to the point where he just unalives himself. And that right there is heartbreaking in itself. Because let's be real, the prison system can mentally do a number on you. But going back to Andy Dufresne real quick, yeah, he improvises and overcomes to the point where he is doing things that people don't notice. Like how he asks for a little rock picker and he finds a place where he can basically crawl his way out, and he uses the poster to cover it up. And when he does escape, people don't even notice. And when they pull back that poster and see that there is a giant hole where he escaped and he gets out, and just that moment right there is triumphant. And like I said, this is one of, if not the movie that turned Morgan Freeman's career into what it is today. That voice right there. The narration. And he's one of the cooler characters. I mean, it's real easy to say that he's kind of like the magical Negro type character, but he's really not, because he is not perfect, and we see that through all the times he tries to qualify for parole, but they keep denying him, and to the point where the last time he goes in for parole, he just doesn't give a shit. He is just accepted that they're just not gonna approve him, and turns out they do, and then he gets out, and then he could have gone the route of Brooks, but instead he doesn't, and Andy Dufresne, he essentially saves him by holding out hope. And that's one of the things I love about this movie, because despite the fact that you're in a mental prison, Andy Dufresne proves that just do things here and there and it'll keep giving you hope. It's all the prisoners fighting for some type of normalcy, even to the point where Andy Dufresne, he locks all the guards out and has everybody in the prison listen to some song that sounds beautiful, and everybody that's listening, they don't care. They just like the fact that they're listening to something beautiful, and just for a moment they have some happiness. There's so much to love and admire about the movie and how hopeful it is. Like, they just do not make movies like this anymore. Like, there's only one word I can describe this movie, and that is triumphant. And like I said, it may not be my favorite out of the top 3 movies from 1994, and maybe that's because had I seen it more times growing up and more times in my adult life, I would appreciate it more, but that doesn't mean I don't appreciate it, because this really is a good movie and definitely deserves all the love and praise that it gets. I just personally gravitate towards Forrest Gump and Pulp Fiction more. But that's not going to stop me from giving this movie the highest rating that I ever give a movie on my personal scale. I'm going to give The Shawshank Redemption the hands up emoji, because it is, without a doubt, a masterpiece. And until next time,
get busy living or get busy dying.